Happy Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're going to do it a little differently tonight. We're going to actually let you call in with your questions versus having to type them in the comments. And if you're watching this after the fact, sorry, that's probably not going to happen for you. However, for everyone that's here live and in living color, it is certainly going to happen. Very glad to have you all here. Esta noche. I'm going to be posting the link here in just a second where you can join me on the Zoom call. Need to mute that. Whoa, easy there, champ. What are we doing here? Just waiting for the chat to pull up so we can all hang out. You know what I mean, Burn? Burn, you know what I mean? Burn, I feel like you don't know what I mean. I think we're going to diffuse our light a little bit washed out, aren't we? Let's go ahead and do that right there. Bam. Now I'm Sexy Delicious. Should change that. I should change my YouTube name to Sexy Delicious. If you would like to join me on the Zoom call, which is what this is all about, I'd much rather have all of you join me on the Zoom call and ask your questions there. Now, remember, when you join the Zoom call, I just posted the link for it. Mute your mics immediately, or inevitably we're going to be listening to somebody yelling at their cat or driving in the car, and it's going to deafen everybody on the show. So as you're clicking the link to join the Zoom call, before you click it, make sure your mic's muted, and I will address all of you directly here in the Zoom call. And I'll be watching the comments here on YouTube for those of you that believe that there's a conspiracy to take all your information and do whatever with it. If you don't want to connect with me in that way, let's go ahead and bump the chat out here. So we have that. Let's go to participants. We'll see who's there. Cool. So how's everybody doing tonight? Fontes, what's going on, man? Hopefully everything's going well with you. There we go. Got our first caller in the place. Remember to mute your mics, guys. Do me a favor, though. I'm going to greet you guys as you're tuning in. Who do we have that just logged in? I don't have a name for you. Who we got? Uh-oh. And just that quickly. Okay, there we go. It's like it's going in and out there. And can you hear me on the Zoom call as well? Those of you on YouTube, I know you can hear me, but can the folks on the Zoom call hear me? I did a sound check before we went live and everything seemed kosher. But let's test it just one more time just to be sure. Yup. Microphone check, microphone checker. Well, ain't that something? Now my mic's acting up. There we go. Mic check. Mic check, 1, 2. There we go. Now you guys should be able to hear me. I don't know why that switched like that. Anyway, welcome everybody that's on the Zoom call. Welcome to everybody that's on YouTube to the Ask Me Anything that's on your mind, that's on your hearts. Let's get it going. Let's get the YouTube chat window open here so I can see the YouTube chat as well. See, Vontaze says, hey, nice to see you live. Nice to see you, Vontaze. Ursula's here as well. Hello, Ursula. Doing great, thanks. Just took a special needs dog to NV, which I assume means Nevada, for a new home. How are you, B? I'm amazing and excellent. Let's see, Cyrus here. We've got the Diamond Tree is up in this joint. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for muting your mics. I will address you one by one with whatever questions you have. I'm also checking the YouTube feed. Kimberly Kristen says, hello, what's up? Thanks for sending me the message the other night. It was funny. I had thought about broadcasting live Friday night when you sent me that, but I didn't have time. And I knew I had announced earlier that day that I was going to be bringing live streams back. This is not indicative of me doing them every week like I used to do back in the day. I probably won't start doing that until 2019. But I wanted to use this evening because I have a little bit of downtime before I have to go pick up my wife here probably in the next hour. I think I got about an hour before I got to go pick her up. Just to make some announcements, tell everyone about what's been going on. I have been very active on the community tab. but a lot of you don't watch the community tab, right? About 100 of you watch the community tab, and many of you may not even know what that is. A lot of you probably think I haven't been making videos because you haven't seen them in your YouTube feeds. Rest assured, I've been making videos actually every day for the last 2 weeks now. And it's just YouTube's not showing it to you because you either didn't click the bell to get notified, or you did click the bell and YouTube's still not showing it to you because it believes that you're probably not going to watch what I'm actually producing. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, if you look in the comment section, I have posted a link to the Zoom call where you can actually ask me your questions right here in my ear, and we can have a dialogue about it instead of me having to read comments and you getting a response a minute after you type it, because the feed is usually about a minute behind. It's kind of like radio, right? So you're welcome to join the Zoom call. Just ask you to keep your mic muted until I address you to ask you a question. But this also will give you kind of a taste of, I have a very special private group, and it's a paid group. I know all my courses and stuff are free, but I have a special private paid group where I do focused one-on-one small group coaching with a really small nucleus of people. In fact, we're growing it in 2019 to 300 people, and then we're shutting it down. And by shutting it down, I don't mean we're going to stop doing it. I mean, we're shutting it down to the public. And the 300 people that are in it are just going to be the 300 people that I work with to change the world. And I'm about to sneeze, so stand by on that. But this will give you a taste of what that's kind of like. This will be a little bit more quick fire. I'm not going to be here for 3 hours, and I'm not going to spend, an hour on each person walking through different things that you're trying to accomplish. But I will give you a chance to ask questions just like you would on a live stream. Let's get to some of the comments here on YouTube. Then let's get to the folks who are waiting so patiently here on Zoom. Remember, if you scroll up to the top, in fact, I will post it again just in case YouTube is being ridiculous, as it does have the tendency to do at times. That link will take you to a Zoom call where you can talk right here in my ear, and I can talk right here inside of yours. Comments from Caitlin Ruffin, or I'm sorry, Shatal Patel says, hello, great vids. I listen to them at work. Amazing. Good news for you if you're only listening to the videos versus watching them. Our podcast in about, what's today? Our podcast in about, hopefully 2 weeks, is about to go live. So you're about to start getting a lot of content that you can just listen to right on your device without having to turn on your computer or do something at work that forces you to show video. You will be able to consume a lot of our content in a podcast. So that's coming very soon. Even though the podcast already exists, it's the Bryant Chambers Movement on iTunes. We're about to start populating it with content. Again, Caitlin Ruffin says, hello everyone. How do you make the decision to go forward with an idea such as a blog or investing time in the next project? You just do it. Vontae says, I have a good question. So Vontes, both of y'all need to get in the Zoom call, man. Let's go. Click on the Zoom call, get a microphone, and let's do it. You don't even need a microphone. You can do it right from your phone. You don't have to show your face. You can just log in just with audio if you're afraid that you're going to be on camera. You won't. You won't be on the show other than people. I will be able to hear you and then repeat your questions to the folks here on YouTube. Okay, so Shatil says, how do you keep focused at work as an ENTJ in a role that isn't active vocally or physically? I think we're really rare and misunderstood. So pretty much every personality type that cares about personality types thinks that they're rare and misunderstood. And feeling misunderstood is a human trait, not really a unique personality trait. Right? But we'll get into that on the Zoom call. We'll get into more detail. Ursula says, what time and nights are the private coaching calls? I cannot remember. So we've been basically doing them on Mondays at around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's kind of the sweet spot that all of our people in America and the folks overseas, Finland, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, Malaysia, we got people all over the world, right? In 2019, we're going to be adding a second call, and we're going to adjust the time so that it makes it easier. We're going to have a time that's easier for the kind of the Western world, and then a time that's easier for people that are further east, that are in time zones ahead of us. So more to follow on that. I'm hoping eventually to grow the program to where we do a call per week. Yeah, 1 call per week instead of 1 to 2 per month. Okay, that said, let's go to Syra on Zoom. Miss Syra, what question do you have for us and the YouTube audience tonight? Syra's desperately looking for her microphone. And while she's doing that, let's go to the Diamond Tree. Diamond Tree, what is your question? Now, don't worry, Syra, we'll come back to you. So when you do log into the Zoom call, make sure that you do mute your mic, but that you have it so that you can unmute it when it's time to ask your question. Hey, what's going on, Diamond Tree? What's your question? On my private Facebook page? You mean my Facebook fan page? Okay. Well, okay, yeah, so that's not private. That's open to the public. But that coaching is for what I was talking about at the beginning of this video, which it's the exclusive small group coaching program that we have. Similar to, you've been on 2 or 3 of the social media calls that we used to do. Is very similar to that. Except we focus more on holistic, personal, and professional development, not just social media stuff. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for your question. Great question. All right. Let's see if Syra has found her microphone. There it is. What's up? Awesome. Or you can stay called in. I have the chat pulled up below. So if you just write a chat into the screen there, say, hey, I have a question, I'll catch it, and then I'll address it. Sweet. Awesome. Thank you for coming. Let's see. We took care of Ursula. EDU Wow Wow says, at Bryant, oh my effing G, it is alive. Vontez says, I will try to get on the Zoom call later on in the live stream, and don't forget to answer my question. Okay, I mean, you are welcome to join the call now, but maybe you have something going on at your house where joining the call and actually talking to people may not be conducive to you. Believe me, I have many children. I know what that's like. EDU Wow Wow says, brother, I freaking love your INFP videos. Saved my life, bruh. And he meant to say bro. He corrected that. I like bruh. I had a friend in college who used to say bruh instead of bro. I don't know why. He was from Mississippi. Might have had something to do with it. No disrespect to Mississippi. I'm just saying that it's the context. Anyway, so let's take a look at Vontaze here. He says, I have a good question. What do you think is the best way to find balance in life and wisdom? And what kind of good, healthy habits to have to become a better entrepreneur? Okay, so it's 2 questions. I will tell you that the first question is probably too broad for me to answer without more context about you as a person, right? So you're asking, what's the best way to find balance in life and wisdom? I'm not sure I understand the question exactly. The best way to find balance in life is different for every person, right? Like if you look at my life, most people couldn't live the way I do. I spent Saturday, and just to put it in perspective for you, okay? I spent most of Saturday doing sales calls. Most people aren't trying to give up their Saturday to do business stuff. I had a ball doing that, right? So balance for me is going to be very different than balance for another person. So my recommendation there is you need to develop a healthy amount of self-awareness. And once you have that, figuring out what your balance is will become easier. In terms of good, healthy habits to have to become a better entrepreneur, listen, a good entrepreneur is a person who has a clear destination that they're working to get to. They have a clear vision for how they're going to do it, and they give a crap about people. You get those 3 things done, becoming an entrepreneur is not intensely that difficult, right? And you have to have a stupid, crazy work ethic to be willing to put in the disproportionate amount of hours before money ever shows up. I mean, a lot of people, the internet and a lot of the marketers on the internet, and I have a video coming out about this in 2019. It's kind of a comedy. It's actually more of a horror sketch. It's less funny and more, oh my God, this dude shot this video. you know, a lot of what's going on in the internet now makes entrepreneurship seem hip and cool, right? Kind of like everyone was a rapper for 20 minutes in 2012. And it's not, man. It's not glamorous. It's not pretty. It's not easy. Most people are not cut out. Most people, like 90% of people, are not cut out to be it, right? And I think the internet has kind of caused people, or people because of the internet have caused themselves to conflate freedom and enjoyment and fulfillment in what I do with entrepreneurship. And those two things just aren't necessarily congruent. There are entrepreneurs who are miserable, right? You know, how do you become a good entrepreneur? You become an entrepreneur and you be willing to work a stupid amount of hours every day until you get good enough for someone to want to pay you at what you do. And then you get good enough at it to where you can do so much of it that eventually they'll pay you to do more than you can do alone. And you can start hiring people to help you do it, right? It's not incredibly complicated becoming a good entrepreneur. It's just hard as crap. And that's another thing the internet gets kind of off. So like, especially with the questions I used to get about YouTube when I did a lot of YouTube coaching, it's like, what's the trick to get my system? Dude, there's no trick. Growing a YouTube channel is not complicated. There's no trick. There's no secret sauce and formula. I don't care how many videos there are. This is the secret to how I grew to 1 million followers. They grew to 1 million followers because one thing, they made content that 1 million people wanted to watch. And then they got kind of smart about how they wrote their titles and thumbnails. Boom, right? The problem is doing it is actually hard. And because people start it and it doesn't work right away, because we kind of delusionally are led to believe that we're better at something than we are until we actually get good at it and realize, man, I really sucked at that when I first started. Like me in music, right? It's just, people quit because they think there's some trick that we entrepreneurs have figured out. And the trick is we've been doing it for 15 years. You know, I've been in the online space. I created a Facebook-like site before Facebook was ever a thing. I am not Mark Zuckerberg. I am not a multi-billionaire running Facebook because he was better at executing than I was. End of discussion. There you go. So, let's see. Edu Wow Wow. I'm not sure how to say your name. If I mispronounce your name, guys, please correct me. Just tell me how to pronounce it because I want to respect you. Let's see. Edu Wow Wow says, I appreciate your video so much. You remember you made a video on how INFP should work a different way. Storyteller job. So I've made probably about 70 INFP videos, start to finish. I don't necessarily remember. That's a funny thing, and that's a good kind of sidebar. When you make as much content as I make on the internet, inevitably a couple times a week, someone will say, hey, you remember what you said in this video? And like, I heard you said blah, 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 blah. And they'll ask me a question without giving me the context, as if I remember everything I said across over 1,000 videos. I don't remember what I ate for dinner tonight, let alone what I said in the video 2 weeks ago. Or people will ask me, hey, you held up a book in a video and give me no description. Like, I hold up books and videos all the time. Like, what color was it? Like, help me out. I don't remember. But so, yeah, it's hard for me to remember the specifics of a video. Like, someone will watch a video and then comment on something I said, but with a question, but not give me the context. Like, I don't remember what I said, so I'm not sure what your question is actually directly related to. All right, Edie Wow Wow says, I went all in and started a new brand on Amazon. Awesome. Currently doing 20K a month in sales now. Sweet. Business is growing rapid. And the best part is I'm doing what I love so much. There you go. You're winning, man. I'm glad to hear that. Keep going. Okay, so reminder, for those of you that have questions, click the link that I just posted in the chat box there. Come on the Zoom call with me so we can talk about the question, especially for those of you that have the very long-winded, multi-layered questions. Ask it to me on the Zoom call so we can discuss it. Let's see. Syra says, okay, I got a question. All right, Syra, go ahead and unmute your mic, and then let's get to your question. And then let me encourage the rest of the people here. Just look at these comments while you're getting to that. Okay, go ahead. Okay, sorry. Mm. So in your area, do they have any like any support groups, say for like addiction or anything like that? That you're Gotcha. Uh, so the only other thing I could think of, and so for everyone that's listening on YouTube, Syra is working to change careers from potentially being a teacher to maybe a counselor or something in social work. And she asked, we had talked on a previous call because she's in our private coaching program about where can I go to kind of shadow people that do this work to see if it's something that I would like. And I said, well, actually, a good way to do it is to go to some of the support groups in your area. Like almost every town will have like support groups for addiction or depression, anxiety, that actual clinical psychologist or psychiatrist will run. There's also support groups for like people with drug addictions, stuff like what's it called, Alcoholics Anonymous, for example. And from time to time, those groups will have what's called open meetings, where people like Cyber could come in and sit in on a meeting, and they'll say, "Hey, she's here. She's not part of this group, but she's here to observe. So just know she's here. So whatever you want to share, just make sure you're okay with her knowing it, and she knows the rules. Nothing's supposed to leave the room." Very similar to I run a combat trauma recovery course in real life here in my neighborhood. So that's a place that she could come to. Now, to answer your question, Syra, that's tough. Like if, can I please ask Heidi to mute your mic? Because we're getting really bad echo. Uh-oh. That sounded... Heidi, can you mute your mic for us, please? Actually, I think I can just do it for... All right, there we go. So, sorry about that. Um, the I'm actually not sure how to answer that second half. If you wanted it to be English speaking and it's only French, are there any provinces like in your vicinity that you can go to where English is the move? Oof, that's tough. So I would then start looking for live meetings online like these. And there's a couple of those groups sometimes that will do online. I would start there. Other than that, you might just have to make the 2-hour trip, unfortunately. Another Right. Well, another thing you can do also is just call the actual therapist and say, "Hey, can I don't know if it would be ethical to pay for it, but can I spend half an hour with you and take you to coffee and just talk to you about the gig?" You know, if I don't know that you would get a session with them because that I think that would kind of go against the Hippocratic oath or something else. But I would just start calling around and say, "Hey, I'm willing to either volunteer at your store, do an admin at your store, Jesus, volunteer at your practice, doing like admin work on a Friday or something. If you'll just give me 30 minutes to hang with you and try to barter that way. If you can't actually sit in it, because I imagine they do speak English. They're just running the French sessions." Okay, cool. And if I think of anything else or if I come across anybody that knows something, I'll pass it on to you. Awesome. All right, so I muted Heidi, but let's unmute her, I'm going to assume. Heidi, did you have a question for us? Uh-oh. Now I can't unmute her. So if Heidi has a question, we will ask her to unmute herself, and then she can ask her question. Let's go back to YouTube here. Vivian Brosius says, Looks like something he said helped you start something great. Ursula Nanya says, most effective way to invest $1,000 for advertising after website is up. Too general of a question. I need to know more about what you're advertising, what the end goals are for the advertising. Are we talking about running a whole campaign? Ursula, have you not been watching my social media coaching videos that you have free access to? Because I explain all that in there. Sounds to me like you need to do your homework. But to answer your question, the question is too broad. I would just be giving you advice in the dark that may not work for you because I don't know specifically what you're trying to do. And so she says, PS is for book sales. Okay, trying to do book sales. Selling a book, the challenge with you selling a book and using digital marketing to do it is you would be better off saving that $1,000 or using it to build up an audience that would follow you, where you give them value for free to build your authority and to build your rapport with the audience. Like, if I had never heard of you and I saw in my feed that you wrote a book, I'm probably not going to be inclined to buy it, because if I'm buying a book, I'm usually wanting to buy it from someone I know or someone that's reputable or someone else recommended the book to me. I think at the stage you are in right now, you need to be thinking less about selling the book and more about establishing yourself as a brand, as the author, right? Build that rapport, build that trust, build that authority. Give something to your viewers for free. It doesn't have to be the book itself, but give something away that says, if you like that, here's another thing that I have, this book that I've got here. Also, I would also start with more of the grassroots marketing. Like, if you have digital versions of the book, give it out to your friends and your family for free and be like, yo, what do you think? And will you share it with your friends? Get the word out there versus, you know, I could tell you, yeah, go buy Facebook and Instagram ads and spam it to death, but you probably won't get a good return on your investment trying to sell a book if you don't already have an established brand. All right, this is a very good question, by the way. Let's see. All right, someone's on the call with us. I don't have a name, but I see a phone number. Do you have a question for us, ma'am or sir? Hey, Keisha. Very nice to hear you. All right, let's see. Who else we have here? Hope says, hi, I love your videos. You've helped me so much. I'm glad to hear that, Hope. Thank you. Scarlett Johansson. Welcome, Scarlett. Says, many times I feel overwhelmed. I am 18, so you're not actually, maybe your name is Scarlett Johansson, just not the one we're all familiar with. I am 18 and in pre-university. All right, so I'm imagining you're not from the United States, because is pre-university like high school or prep school? But I don't need to know that. I do not have a strong support system from my family, but I do have a support from a few trusted adults. I'm not sure which career I want to do, but I feel a lot of pressure. What should I do? First of all, take the pressure off yourself. You're 18. You're not going to have it figured out at 18. My advice to you is at 18, you probably have an idea of some different things that you like. I would then go spend 3 months experimenting with those things as you go through school, right? Just to see if you actually really like them. Remember, Steve Jobs was never passionate about technology or computers. Steve Jobs was actually passionate about what he studied in school, which was design, right? And I think calligraphy was his minor or something crazy like that. He was obsessed with design. He just happened to apply his passion to the world of computing and technology. And over the course of his career, he then became passionate about technology. So Steve Jobs didn't have all that figured out at 18. He just studied something he was interested in and then used what he was interested in to affect a lot of lives across the world. All right, so I would look at it that way. At 18, you're way too young to have your entire life figured out. If there's, you know, you shouldn't be feeling any pressure at this point, really, simply because at 18, there's nothing that you should have accomplished that's so grandiose and amazing that you can't just spend some time figuring out what it is you want to do. So I would spend time experimenting, or as Gary Vee calls it, tasting things. Heidi Jenkins says, I know you don't make relationship videos, but do you have any advice on finding a relationship whom someone is truly compatible with? I'm an INFP. So my recommendation on this channel for pretty much the whole time I've been making content is not to use the Myers-Briggs to determine relationship compatibility. I think a lot of the things, like, for example, the two big things people try to use to determine relationship compatibility is the thinking and feeling functions and the sensing and intuition functions. And even books like Please Understand Me that I have on my shelf back here say a lot of misunderstandings happen because people are intuitors or sensors. Where, okay, there is a correlation between those two things, but if you dig a lot deeper into the problems with relationships, in almost every case you have a problem, one, with too much self-focus, selfishness, and narcissism, and then you have an issue with inflexibility, two people who cannot get along because they won't show empathy to the other person's way of processing information or making decisions. So we will blame the Myers-Briggs. I see so many people in my comments say, I'll never date another fill-in-the-blank personality type. And that's fine, but you're really looking at it in a very shallow way, which doesn't make you a shallow person. It's just, as a person who's put together a marriage, a very happy marriage of almost 16 years, I understand that my wife's difference is she's a feeler and I'm a thinker. That's never our problem. Now, it may mean that we make decisions differently, but because we have empathy for one another and we're flexible, we have a rule in our house: we would rather have peace than be right, which means we're willing both to compromise on 99 out of 100 things. Some things I'll get stubborn about, or she'll get stubborn about, but at some point one of us will end up compromising. If for no other reason to say, hey, let's just try it your way because I'm not 100% sure my way is right. Even though I think I'm right and I don't like it, let's try it your way and see what happens. And so a lot of, and I get, it hurts me when people will send me messages like, why do I keep attracting so many narcissists? It's because you have a high level of narcissism, probably, right? We have a tendency to attract what we are. And if we're people will inevitably yell at me like, no, I think about other people. I was like, that's not the issue. Of course you do, right? You're human. But either you have a personality that narcissists try to prey on, or you have a good level of narcissism that you don't have the self-awareness to start dealing with and removing from your life, right? So I would totally not use the Myers-Briggs to try to determine compatibility. I don't think the test was designed to do that. I've even made some videos talking about it, but I kind of use those videos as a Trojan horse to say what I'm saying now, because so many people are asking me, I'm an INFP, who should I date? So I created a video, and then in the video, I kind of say all this stuff, right? So I just think you're headed for a really challenging place if the Myers-Briggs is the tool that you're using to figure out whether you're compatible or not. I would instead use, and by the way, you can use it because you'll learn, okay, my communication style when I talk to my wife, or if I need to give her a critique, needs to be different than the way I would talk to me. That can be helpful, but that doesn't mean that we're incompatible. It just means we have to learn and be willing. Compatibility a lot of times comes down to how willing are you to accept someone the way they are and adapt yourself to the way that they think and feel, and how flexible are they towards you, right? Those are things that we need to absolutely think about. So I would say test-wise, if you've taken the Myers-Briggs, also take the hexacode test, then take what's called the dark triad test, and make the other person you want to date take the dark triad test. And if they score high on psychopathy, run. If they score high on Machiavellian or way too high on narcissism, run. But test yourself too, because if you score high, there may be some behavioral changes that you need to adopt before you're attractive enough. And I don't mean physically, but until you're personality-wise attractive enough to the type of person you want to attract. Remember, we attract what we are. Bassie Morse says, what is your opinion on dropping out of college? If I want to get into an entrepreneurial endeavor, more specifically music. So I don't necessarily have an opinion on dropping out of college, nor do I think my opinion would serve you very well. I would say what you need to figure out is, does staying in college help you in any way accomplish the thing that you want to do? Right? And then I have to factor in, how long have you been at, like, did you just start college last month and you're thinking about dropping out, or are you like a semester away from graduation and you're thinking about dropping out, right? So I don't have a generic, and I know a lot of people on the internet, it's real cool to say, man, college is a drag, you don't need college. Well, some people do need college. I don't regret going to college. I probably would not do it over again, but that's because I have a crazy amount of self-awareness. And I know that what I ended up wanting to do with my life, I didn't need college to do, right? I could have learned it way better from having a person like the mentor that I have now teach me the things he's taught me in the years that I've known him, but back when I was 17, not when I was in my 20s. All right, let's see. Squally says, so Hexaco is better for compatibility. So I don't, better, worse, that's kind of subjective. I think what the Hexaco will help is more optimal at helping you with is seeing the different pieces of you where you are on the spectrum, right? And one of the things Hexaco measures is the A, and that measures agreeableness. And in agreeableness is flexibility, right? These are facets that we have. And if you score really low in flexibility, I don't care what personality type you hook up with, you're going to be high maintenance and a pain to deal with because you're never willing to compromise. Or vice versa, if you're dating someone that scores really low in flexibility, you're probably, unless you're exactly alike, which can also be a kind of a curse too. If you're dealing with someone that's completely inflexible, relationships are hard. And it doesn't matter what your Myers-Briggs type is if you're inflexible. Cool. So it looks like I got everybody on. Does anybody else want to join the live? A lot of you guys are typing the questions. Remember, you can come on this Zoom. If you click this link and you're watching the video, you click the link I just put in the chat. You can actually ask your question to me. We can have a discussion about it. So some of you that are asking me questions that are too broad, I can discuss it with you versus having to try to figure out some of the context from what you're typing. What else y'all got? Looks like the Diamond Tree has another question. Let's unmute him. Diamond Tree, go ahead. What's your question? With the website, okay? Correct. That's correct. Yes, sir. That is correct. Yeah, no worries. So my good friend, the Diamond Tree, was asking a question about my course, the Social Media Master University. We had it on a different website before, and he was noticing that it's actually on my website now. And he was asking, is that where he should go to access the content? And the answer is absolutely. We did that simply because it was way easier to consume the content on my website than to have a password and remember your password. And there was 18 different links depending on when you signed up for the program. It got to be a mess. I was working on a site called ClickFunnels that we eventually just shut down because ClickFunnels just really didn't, you know, and I think Russell's a great dude. Russell Brunson, the guy who created it. I think ClickFunnels has the right idea, but it's just not quite there yet in terms of what I do. And it was just easier to run it natively on my website, much easier for my clients, right? For my viewers, for my customers, for the people that consume my content. Just consuming it on my website was 1,000 times easier than having to go through ClickFunnels. So I shut it down. Squally said, so don't take people with sticks up their butt. Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Mahan says, trying to think of a question that's worth your time. Any question's worth my time, man. Hope says, I'm an INFJ and I've completely closed myself off to the world. I barely talk to anyone anymore. Any advice? Sorry if you've made a video about this. I'm still going through watching. I have not made a video about this. Honestly, I don't have any advice because I don't have enough context about you. You've closed yourself off from the world, but are you happy? If closing yourself off from the world makes you feel amazing, I'd be like, rock on. If you feel like you're winning at life and that's the way it's supposed to be, sometimes I feel like closing myself off from the rest of the world. Let's see. It looks like the Diamond Tree has another question. Hit me. What you got, man? For the most part. So Diamond Tree asks, is the content on the website the same as the ClickFunnels content? Yes, for the most part, minus some of the stuff that was on The ClickFunnels page was also the content that our VIPs had access to. That content is not on the website. I also purged a bit of the content that was either outdated and obsolete, or just not really. I just determined that it either wasn't good enough or it was something that I needed to update at a later time. But essentially everything that's on the website is everything I think you need to have access to. So for example, some of the VIP content were the YouTube channel reviews that I did for VIPs in that program. That's not on the website, simply because people got value out of that for a while, but then it kind of fell off. Plus that was VIP content that we had walled off anyway. But yeah, the only stuff that's missing is stuff that I felt just needed to be cut. No worries, man. Great question. So Vonta says, hold on, I'm getting messages faster on my phone than I am. Vonta says, I'm not ready to speak on Zoom, though, but I'll try to. Thank you for putting effort into bettering me and others. May God bless you and give you happiness. He does, He will, and thank you. I received that. Vonta says, how do you know someone is narcissistic? And how do you get rid of being narcissistic? I'm trying to better understand it. Look it up. Google. You will learn way more than me giving you a 3-minute answer here. Google that. Google narcissism. Google the signs of narcissism, what you should look out for. And Google taking the Hexaco test is one great way you'll be able to tell whether you have narcissism. And the test will tell you that if you have these traits, here are some of the things you're prone to do. You probably want to stop doing those things. Let's see. All right. Squally, would you like to ask your questions on Zoom, or are you in a place where you can't talk? But I'll go ahead and read Squally's latest question, which says, hey, Squally recently lost his or her job. They don't have an avatar that lets me know if they are male or female, so we'll say lost their job. And you want to take online, okay, Squally can't talk, got it. Want to take online education to get a different career that I've always wanted. I only have 6 months of rent to live off. Should I get a job or get education? Get both. Go get free education and pay your rent. Get a job, take free classes at night, and yeah, part-time job, take classes at night, get your education for free, dude. There's nothing that you need to learn, at least in the temporary term, that you can't learn for free online. Go to Coursera. Go to my website. It's got it. Like, if your dream is to do marketing, my website will teach you how to do a ton of that stuff, right? If your dream is to do sales, my website will teach you how to do that. You don't need to go take a college course for that. Ursula says, been getting the 69 pillar notifications daily. Loving it while I'm trying to unpack. Not have much time for Facebook. So thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Is everybody familiar with the 69 pillars of success? Squally says, I didn't know Coursera was free. So some of it is, some of it's not. I took a gamification course from the Wharton Business School up in Pennsylvania. I took a game theory course from MIT. That was free. What other courses did I sign up for and take? That might have been the only 2 I took. But another real good way to learn is if you know a specific topic. Let's see if I can reach it. Let's see if my headphones will stretch far enough. Oh, snap. Right? I wanted to learn evolutionary psychology, so I just bought Dr. David Buss's book. I don't need to attend his class. It's right here. Just buy the book and read it, man. Now, granted, I would love to sit around with Dr. David Buss and talk to him, but the book's the next best thing. Squally says, oh, there are classes from real school. I didn't know that either. Yeah, man. What? Yeah, Wharton Business School. My gamification class was awesome. Awesome. I've actually, if people have been watching me on YouTube for any length of time, there's actually a couple things I've done throughout video series that were gamification, and people probably didn't know I was doing it on purpose to increase engagement. All right. So we have no new takers on Zoom. Again, the link is in the comment section below if you have a question. Out of all the people we have here, go ahead and jump in the Zoom call and come holler at me. Now then. Now I will say, if you're on the Zoom call, you probably need to mute the YouTube feed, because you're going to be hearing two sounds, and the Zoom call is going to be ahead of what people are seeing on YouTube. All right. What other questions you guys got for me before I got to get up out of here? Yes. Yeah, man, go ahead. A colleague of mine in the business world did a Zoom call. Two colleagues of mine, actually, in the business world, two really good friends of mine, did Zoom calls with me before I knew what it was. And once I realized how easy it was to use Zoom, I just started using it. And so the question for those of you on YouTube was, what got me into using Zoom for Hangouts? Asked by the Diamond Tree. Yes, you did. I had already been introduced to it probably about a year before that. But yes, I do remember you sending me that. And thank you, by the way. That's awesome, man. Cool. What other questions do we have before I go to pick up my wife? And then I'm taking her out somewhere probably. She doesn't know it yet, but we're going out on a date, dagnabbit. Somebody just sent me a message on Instagram. All right. We've got Heidi Jenkins. Do you have any habits you've obtained or habits you lost that help you with your satisfaction of life? Yes. 2 habits that I've gained. First, I learned from Napoleon Hill in a series of videos he put together back in the 1940s, maybe as late as the 1950s, about how to start your day. And he says to start your day with a hearty laugh, because it's very hard to be angry or resentful or depressed when you're laughing. So I watch, I talk a lot about how I don't consume any content. It's not 100% true. I do consume some content, just not like everyone. Like, I don't watch TVs. I don't watch Game of Thrones, or I don't even, West Wing. Is that still a show? Like, that's how not. I didn't watch House of Cards or any of that crap because I'm usually so busy working. But I do, like, before I go to bed, a lot of times I'll watch stand-up comedy. And if I find a bit that makes me really, really laugh, and it's really hard to make me laugh. I don't find most things funny, but there's a handful of people that just get me. And so in the mornings, especially like today, I was up at 5:30 getting ready for client calls, right? Because there's we work with a lot of people overseas. And I've been on sales calls pretty much all day, off and on, in between hanging out with my kids. And I'll start my day off with a heavy laugh. And that's what Napoleon Hill basically said. Start your day with a hearty laugh, because when you're in that physical and emotional state, it's really hard for things that would typically depress you to keep you depressed. Also, I start my day with gratitude. I specifically look around at all the things I have, right? I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful family. I have a pretty nice home compared to, it's not a mansion, right? But everybody has a bed, you know what I mean? And, I've lived in mud huts, and I've had to live out of a Humvee where people were trying to kill me. So when I look at how I live now, I'm very, very grateful, and I express, because in my morning, I have my prayer time in the morning, because I pray. I know that's not everybody's thing. It's fine. But I get up and I do my prayers, and a huge part of my prayer time is thanking God for everything that he's put in my life, from the people that have helped me to the knowledge he's given me that has helped me do things for myself and for my family. And when you get into a state of gratitude, you cannot coexist in gratitude and resentment and depression at the same time. And so, I remember one morning I was off to do something for a client, and I got a flat tire. And this was one of my big clients, so it was like, this isn't good. I got a flat tire, had to pull over, and I knew I wasn't going to be on time for all the stuff I had going on. And I stopped, and I was just grateful. I said, you know what? This probably kept me from being in an accident that was designed to kill me. So I looked at it as God allowing the laws of nature to be the laws of nature to work in my favor, right? People would look at a flat tire, oh, it's stopping me, oh, it's keeping me from getting where I go. Oh, there's money tied to this, and blah. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, none of that is anything I need to be afraid of. It's not like the clients can be like, we've had enough of you. As long as you're adding value, you just keep things in perspective. But I was also grateful. I was like, maybe this flat tire kept me from getting killed in another way. It's really hard to be upset about a flat tire when you're grateful for it, right? That's why if you've been watching my 69 Pillars of Success videos, one of the videos is the life is happening for you, not happening to you. And that's hard for a lot of people to hear. That's really hard. A lot of people hear me say that, and some people get offended. Like, how can you tell me that when I've been through, a number of us have been through, and I've been through a lot of craziness. But if you think about it, me, my dad passing away, all these things that have happened to me. I have a young child who's been through 2 major surgeries. We didn't even know if he was going to be healthy and like survive a year ago because of the issues he had. And now he's kicking it, right? So I'm looking at those things aren't happening to me. And of course, my son having the seizure, none of that is like a blessing. But I'm looking at, but he came out of it. And what if this thing that he had happen to him actually helps him be more healthy down the road, right? What if me going through this situation caused me to go through that pain and hurt and cry, and then I'm stronger when someone else is going through something with their kids? It's all in how you frame it. It's all in how you look at it, man. It's all in how you look at it. So that's my 2 really big habits. I never had the habit of complaining. It's not my thing. I hate whining. If I destroyed any habits, it's ranting when things frustrate me. Not necessarily complaining, but expressing more than I need to express something that I can't change. Like, I used to have the habit of trying to change things I didn't have the power to change because I knew it was the right thing, but other humans were involved, and whenever other humans are involved, you can take it to the bank. You're going to have very little control of the situation. And I used to not try to control people, but get people to do the right thing. And sometimes you just got to let people be people, man. So that, if anything, I've cut. That's one of the habits I've cut. Cool. Great question, by the way. Let's see. Heidi is back on the call. Oh, Diamond Tree has another question. Run it, man. What you got? Okay. Thank you. So Diamond Tree just expressed love for our podcast, which is about to go live again in a couple of weeks with a ton of content. So thank you, Diamond Tree. That's great. Maurice also has a question. Maurice, what's your question? It's a great question. Maurice, for everyone on YouTube, asks, how do you get over fear and take action? By making sure that you have a desire that's greater than the fear, right? So give me a for instance. What is something that you are afraid of right now that's holding you back from something that you want? New career. Okay, so you're in a career right now that you don't love and you want a different one, right? Okay, and so you're afraid to make the jump. So you're not afraid to make the jump. What are you actually afraid of? The jump doesn't. Okay, so that's a situation where I would combat fear with fear. Your fear is that you're going to waste time and not actually be productive. You're wasting time now by staying in the thing that you hate. And if there's one way to guarantee that you're going to stay in something you hate, it's to stay in something you hate and not try something else. That is a way bigger waste of time that you should be way more afraid of than wasting 30 or 60 or 90 days trying something that doesn't work. That's how you attack it. So, and here's the deal. Very rarely in your life are you going to remove the feeling of being afraid, right? That's what most people try to do. Like, I've been in war, man, and I'm going to tell you, you don't go into a firefight without being afraid. And people are like, well, how did you do it? Well, I did it because if I didn't get in there and fight, I was probably going to be dead. And one action guarantees I'm going to be dead. The other action gives me about a 70-30% chance to survive. I'm going to take the 70-30. And you need to look at your life the same way, man. When you want the other side bad enough, you'll be willing to fail a little bit to get there. And remember, it's not a waste of time if you're learning something from it, right? There's usually, and remember, dude, usually there's no, in life, oftentimes there is no good solution. Sometimes there's just bad and worse, right? Sometimes you just got to pick bad. Right? And or you got to pick okay. You're not going to have a great alternative. You just got to pick the thing that's good enough and roll out. And so let's say you jump careers and it doesn't work after 90 days. You're like, crap, I'm right back where I started. No, you're not. You're not in the thing you hated. You made some progress forward. And now that gives you the energy and the courage to keep progressing. But what I need you to be way more afraid of than the jump is you need to be way more afraid of having this conversation with me again in 20 years. Like, yo, B, I'm still in the same place, bruh. That's the thing that would terrify me every day. And it would force me to take action. Yeah, no worries, man. Great question. Let's see. We have some questions that YouTube kind of cut me off on. Squally says, I can definitely start watching stand-up comedy before bed. Yeah, and I watch it. I'll find one that I really, really like, and I'll watch it in the morning when I first wake up. Squally says, there was a video where you said we lost the gift of desperation when it comes to creating the life we want. Do you think people from outside the U.S. who start businesses in the U.S. have that gift of desperation? Yeah. Yeah, in fact, in my neighborhood, there's a gentleman from Morocco, and we were both kind of laughing about how soft Americans are and how whiny Americans are. And I'm an American too, so I get that I'm kind of making fun of my own culture. But I also come from warrior culture, so I wasn't raised a civilian, and my career didn't start as a civilian. So a lot of things that civilians do to me is kind of comical, the things that people complain about. And so he's like, dude, I came to America, and like they told me, like, he's like, when I figured out all I got to do is work, and they're gonna give me money, and I can save that money and buy a house. He's like, what are y'all fussing about? He's like, you think Trump's bad? He's like, where I live, they're murdering people trying to go vote. Like, and I said, dude, it's a matter of perspective, right? In America, things have been so good for so long that we got to make up things to be mad about, right? And that's human nature. Our brains are survival machines that learned how to survive for thousands of years by focusing on things that are now seen as negative. And that hasn't changed. We haven't evolved that much from 10,000 years ago, right? And because of that, we still behave like those prehistoric, not prehistoric, but people from thousands of years ago, as if we have the same struggles and fears. And so Trump gets to be president, and all of a sudden the sky is falling because we've had it so amazingly. Like, let me just remind everybody that unless my statistics and watching documentaries are wrong, like the last slaves were officially set off of plantations in the 1960s. Yeah, I get that it was emancipated in the 1860s, but that took 100 years, homie. Like, not that long ago, my parents were getting fire hoses and dog sicked on them. And yeah, we still have incidents of people being murdered and hurt today, but it's not everybody against this group of people. Like, we just have a lack of perspective of how good, like, when I went to fight in the war, I remember we captured these guys who kind of acted like they were fighting with us, but then threw their weapons down. And when we interrogated them, we're like, dude, what was that? And they're like, first of all, you're going to feed us tonight. And the only reason we had to come out here and fight you guys is because, you know, our dictator basically told us we're going to rape and kill your family if you don't fight these Americans. That's the country that I've been in. And so when I come home and I see people start fussing about stuff they're angry about, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be angry. I'm not saying you're wrong for being angry. Just understand that a lot of us have a different perspective. We've seen things. And I think Americans have had it so amazing for so long that we, even when, and some things are wrong, guys, I get it, but the level of fussing we do about it, it's like when I go on Twitter, one of the things that drives me nuts is like a hurricane will happen, and then I'll see a bunch of freaking pundits talking about, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. Meanwhile, me and my boys are down here throwing sandbags trying to save people's lives, right? That I can't tolerate the freaking Twitter, social media. I'm going to talk about justice instead of, like, I run programs to help combat veteran suicide. I don't get on my soapbox on Twitter and start screaming about it, and how you Americans don't pay attention to how hard we have it. No, I go and try to help my brothers and sisters. That's the problem I have. And that's kind of like the motivation, like the real motivation deep down with why I do what I do, like the selfless, he's a good person. I'm an okay person. Part of my motivation with helping people is I'm trying to turn y'all into people who think like me so I can have a comfortable place to live on earth. And that's just being real, right? That may sound kind of narcissistic, and it is. But it's also selfless because I've seen how people who have like a warrior spirit, in warrior culture, it's always the team before me. That's where we are stronger than I comes from, right? And in civilian world, it's all me, my career, my thing, my promotion, my. Well, what about the team, yo? What are we contributing to make other people better? And so I do a lot of what I do to make the world kind of comfortable for me and people like me to live in, right? And, you know, I'm not trying to force anybody to think what I think, and I respect people that disagree with me, and I respect their right to disagree with me. But to answer your question, yeah, I think Americans, by and large, we're not as tough as we should be, mentally or emotionally. You know, like, there's so much depression and anxiety in America. You know, one place in America where it's extremely low, the Amish. And they don't have access to any of the conveniences that we have. Something to be said about having the character to maintain the prosperity that you already have. And I think that's something that's lost on modern Americans because we've had it so good for so long and haven't had to fight for things the way that our parents did. Let's see. Heidi Jenkins says, life happening for you, I feel, is freeing. Life happening to you is constricting. Absolutely. Squally, I think you answered my question when you answered Maurice's. Okay, excellent. Let's keep scrolling. Desperate desire greater than comfortable fears, says Squally. Yeah, I'll take that. I am who I am, says very true. Squally says, whoa. Different world, man. I am who I am, says yes, amen to that. Squally says, I guess it's a good selfishness. New student says, you're live, bro, with thumbs up. Yeah, man. I love Beef Oven says, anybody know that movie reference? You get 10 points. First time watching you live, and you've said so much that resonates with me. Me thanks you. I'm currently trying to find a job I love, but I just don't know what I'm good at or what kind of job I would love. So instead of looking for a job that you would love, do the work that's set before you like you love it. And you'll find that you actually, like a lot of you that are talking about you hate your job, some of it is narcissism. Some of it's just, dude, show up and do the work as if your life depended on it and as if it really mattered. And you'd find, oh, this kind of matters a little bit more than I was giving it credit for. Some of it is mindset. Not all of it is you need to change careers. Some of it is you need to change you. And a lot of people who are trying to sell you courses about changing careers aren't going to tell you that. And I will. Like, some of you just need to go work. And you need to be okay with submitting to someone else's authority. Because that you can't lead unless you can follow, period. It's one of the first things they teach you in the military, right? And it's, a lot of you probably would find you don't hate your jobs or your careers as much if you actually did your career as if you loved it. Now, I'm not saying that's going to last forever. Some of that's going to be manufactured and it's not going to feel authentic, but that's okay. It's still going to give you a better experience until you can get to the thing that you really, really want. Remember the old proverb, he or she who's faithful with little will be made faithful with much. You're asking for much and you're not being faithful with the little yet. You got to get after that. Dawson K says, what do you think about working and bringing the stress from work home? How to balance these two environments? I can't seem to turn off my logical self sometimes and being emotional and receptive. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, what technique could I give you to actually do what you're trying? Because the way you do it is you just do it, right? Like, you make a decision. Like my dad made a decision and I made a decision not bringing work home. Meaning I'm going to change my physical state, right? I'm going to go work out in the gym first. And I'm going to get the anger out there, right? Whether it's lifting weights or it's running or doing some crazy football workout. I'm going to get the stress out there. Then I'm going to change the way I'm talking to myself about the problem. Like, is the thing that's stressing you out really as bad as you're making it in your mind? Hint, probably not. Unless you're being physically beaten at work, it's probably not as bad as you think. or as bad as we're making it, right? And I've been guilty of all the stuff that I'm talking about, right? I am not speaking from a place of judgment. I'm speaking from a place of having lived through all these things you guys are talking about, so I've seen the other side of it. So that's how. You just need to have some practical techniques in place to get. I don't care if you can turn your logical mind off or not. Who cares? Bottom line is you have control over what you think about and how you think about it, whether you're logical or emotional or not, right? Squally says, time to give up the goods and become Amish. I've considered it. I'm actually thinking about going and doing volunteering and doing an apprenticeship with Joel Salatin for a couple of months with my son. Syra has another question in the chat. Syra, when you are ready, we are ready for you. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes, 100%. So Syra just asked an amazing question. I'm glad she asked it because we humans can get out of balance. She says, you're talking a lot about we need to do for others and care about others, but she had a mentor that told her, you can't help others until you help yourself. My mentor says it this way, you can't give away something that you don't have. So I 100% agree with the statement. To answer your more specific question about did I do that as a young person, what did I do to develop myself? I was spoiled, right? I had a dad that took it upon himself to mentor and coach me and turn the awesome human being he was into and try to put some of that off on me. By the time I got to high school, I had my football coaches and some of my teachers who took it upon themselves to mentor this kid that thinks he's stupid because he doesn't do well in school. But what it really is he has minor dyslexia and he learns differently. And I had teachers that said, nope, you're not stupid. Let me show you another way, right? Then I get to college and I have mentors in my major in college, but more importantly, I have my first real spiritual mentor, who's a guy that my friends had been inviting me to church, and I grew up as a heathen. I didn't grow up. I went to church a little bit in high school because I was curious about it, and really it was because I was in trouble, and I was like, let me go talk to God real quick so I can get out of this trouble. So I experimented with that, and it was fine, but then by the time I got to college, it was party time. But I had some friends who were like, why don't you come to our church? I'm like, I'm not really in the church thing, yo. But then they were like, you got to come meet this guy. This guy today is like a spiritual father to me. And he took it upon himself to help me remove a lot of the anxiety and depression and some of the pain that I went through as a child in the family that I grew up in. You know, my story is my biological father left me shortly after I was born. My mother was in and out of my life, not always by choice. And not because she's a bad person, but just because she was trying to get her life together to help take care of me. So there's baggage that comes along with that. So the answer to your question is I was incredibly spoiled, and that's why I do so much of this stuff, because I don't feel like I'm right. Like God put all these people in my life. Most people don't get that treatment, right? Most people don't get abandoned by their father and then get adopted by their grandfather who has a really successful career in the military. Like that's the lottery. Most people that get abandoned by their father are slinging dope or doing dirt, right? I hit the lottery, so it's like, I got to give that back. And so you're 100% right. I kind of grew up having personal and professional development, so it was just normal to me. Like I always have sought out knowledge and why are things the way they are, just because that's who I had around me. I got lucky, right? That's why I do so much of these calls and free courses, because I want to give back with so many of these. And not to mention, I didn't even get to my mentors in the Army. That's a whole separate list of people who coached me and helped me to become, you know, like my instructors when I was a cadet, an Army cadet, and then my actual military mentors. I mean, these are people that poured their lives into me. Most people don't get that. I did. Yeah, 100%. And that it's kind of like the entrepreneur whose parents gave them millions of dollars to get started. That's not my story as an entrepreneur, but it's totally my story as like a mentor and a person who develops other people. I won the lottery and got all these amazing people that helped me, so now it's my turn to give back. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, YouTube's being crazy as it always is. Hold on, friends. I'm going to get to your comments. Oh, sorry. Did you have another question? Okay. Your hand was still waving. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss something. No worries. Let's see. Heidi Jenkins says, my dad thinks I should join the reserves, and I am 30 and a single parent. Do you think that would be beneficial for me? So I don't know enough about you to tell you if that would be beneficial, right? The one thing I'll encourage all of you to do is to, when you're asking questions, and this is not me criticizing you, this is me trying to help, okay? Think deeply about what it is, because what you're really asking me is, help me make a decision about whether or not this is good. Well, I can't make that decision, right? If your father's giving you that advice, he's got some context about your life that I don't have. So I'm not in a good position to give you advice on that, nor would I, because if I said, yeah, it's a great idea, it may be the most worst thing ever in your life, right? So to answer a question like that, I would need a ton more context to be able to help you. And I'm not asking you to give it to me, because that may be your personal business, and I want you to keep that personal if that's what you want to do. I think people that know you better probably would be better suited to answer that without knowing more about you. Let's see. I love B Thubbin says, thank you for answering. You are welcome. It's my pleasure. Robin MC, I don't really enjoy interaction with others and have removed myself from any friends or close interaction. I know that's part of my personality, and I prefer that to trying to be someone really outgoing. But why do I feel guilty about it? Well, I think some of it may be, and this is a maybe, some of it is we humans are very, very social people. Even though many of you who label yourselves introverts tend to say, I'm not social, I'm not this, I'm not that. In most cases, when I find someone struggles to be social, it's less because they are introverted, or what the Hexacode test would say is you're just less extroverted. That you're not an introvert or an extrovert, you just kind of exist on this continuum of extroversion. It's usually because there's something else behind that. There's some past hurt, there's some social anxiety, there's maybe panic attacks. Like I have people in my life that when they get into a public situation, it is like a life or death, fight or flight thing, right? And so some of that's not personality more so than it's maybe talking to somebody that's a professional to help you pull those things out, because we humans are wired to be social. Even the most not extroverted, introverted introvert is still wired to have human connection. So I think what you're feeling might be less guilt and more your DNA trying to tell you, hey, get some people in my life. We need other human beings to survive. Now, you may not need to go to parties and clubs and be the life of the dance and all that stuff, but you probably need one or two people in your circle that can speak some life and some encouragement to you. And, you know, based on what you're saying, I'm going to imagine that you don't have someone like that in your life, which is unfortunate, that you wouldn't have someone that's putting positivity into your life. That's where I would focus. I wouldn't beat yourself up or feel guilty about it. I'd say maybe that feeling of guilt is really just the deep inside you who knows you need human interaction and connection. I mean, you're on a live stream talking to me, so you're looking for something, right? It's maybe the people in your life just aren't the right ones, and we got to figure out how do we get you in front of those people who are going to have your back. You know, one of my mentors talks about learn how to love people until they love them, so they learn how to love themselves. That was something he did for me, right? I didn't have a lot of love for myself. I had a lot of self-loathing and self-hatred because it was taught to me. You know, I just told this awesome story about my dad, you know, but I also had influences in my life that weren't as positive. So, someone had to teach me how to do that. And I would say, hopefully my prayer for you is that you'll find someone in your life that does give you that social fix that you need, and kind of allows that to come out where it's not uncomfortable. It doesn't feel like it stresses you or you know, causes anxiety or anything like that. Okay. I Am Who I Am says they love the Amish beliefs. Let's see. Tabitha says, any advice on finding a good mentor? Someone who will pour their light into you like you said yours did. I've been my own mentor so far, and it's been okay, but I'd like some external support too. So one of the best ways to get mentorship when you may not have the humans handy is to read books by people that that speak to whatever the thing is that you need. So if I had to go to my bookshelf and say, you know, I've got C.S. Lewis as a mentor of mine. Let's see, Al Rees and Trout are mentors of mine. Peter Drucker, Chris Smith. Where is she? She's up here somewhere. Sally Hogshead is definitely a mentor of mine. A lot of the authors of the Bible are mentors of mine. I'm trying to find. There's one other book that I'm drawing. Oh, Peter Keller, huge mentor of mine. Right. So if you can't necessarily get to physical people, start with books, because it'll feel like you're having conversations with them. In terms of getting an actual mentor, again, you know, my story is I kind of lucked into mine, but also had to show up. One of the ways I've done it in the past when I've needed mentoring, especially about something specific, is I've paid them, right? Like I've paid when I was working through my disability, and I still am working through my disability from the military. I paid doctors to talk to me about PTSD and all these different things, right? I paid for that. And I've gotten a lot of great mentorship out of those relationships, and I'm learning how to live a life from the things that I've experienced. Some of it is you may have to just go seek somebody out and tell them, listen, whatever I got to trade you. And usually you want the mentor to be really, really good at something that you want to add to your toolkit. So like I talk about my spiritual mentor. I knew, like, it's somewhere deep inside my soul, I had this inkling that God was real. I wanted to be connected with him, but I didn't know how, and church wasn't getting it done because, good God, church is not made for people like me. But so I hated going to church, but my friends were like, you got to come meet this dude. And so I met him, and he was able to impart the spiritual things to my life that I felt like I was lacking, because he was well versed and well educated in those things, right? My military mentor is well versed in leadership and military strategies and tactics. My dad, just freaking beast. My mom, who I don't often talk about a lot, she taught me a lot about loyalty and protecting the people you care about. Right, my mom was the type of person, if anybody did me wrong, she's about ready to kill somebody. Right, that's my mom's, yo. Both my biological mother and the mother that had a hand in raising me. So, you know, make sure the people that you're seeking out are really good at something that you're trying to learn. Right, so I don't just have one mentor; I have multiple mentors. And two of my mentors, I sought them out. You know, one was a family friend, is a family friend to this day. He's my biological mother's boyfriend, and he's awesome. He teaches, like, we go on these trips every year, and he just teaches me like the mysteries of the universe as it relates to running businesses and just life in general. Because, you know, he's been successful in business longer than I've been alive. So it's just great to learn from a person who's experienced everything I'm ever going to be faced with, and he can kind of coach me through. Like, you guys have heard me tell the story of the farm that I want to buy. He's like, tell me about this farm thing you're doing. So I told him, he's like, you're going to want to change this, change that. That ain't going to work. At least not like I don't know that stuff, but he does, because he's done it. He's done businesses in these arenas. So yeah, that's my advice from the beginning. And pay for it. I pay mentors. I do. I've paid people to coach me in marketing. I've paid people to coach me in sales, because I didn't know everything. I needed to learn it. And one of the best ways to get friends and mentors is to give them money, and they will pay attention to you. Let's see. But it doesn't always have to be paid. A lot of stuff you can get for free. So I Am Who I Am says, their kids asked, how can I follow my heart when there's so many mean people and I just want to explode? I taught my kids to respond as Jesus, just being right there next to you. So remember, mean people were once hurt too. Right? People are not born wanting to be mean. Being mean is a defense mechanism from being hurt. Show love. One of my favorite songs, I listen to it in the gym all the time, is a heavy metal song called A Tribute to the Fallen by Killswitch Engage. And the lyrics to the hook go, you cannot break this love with hate. Love cannot be broken by hate. So you got to love. The more hate and meanness pop up, you got to love harder. You got to love harder. And remember, most people aren't mean. We just have a tendency to pay attention to the mean people because they're louder and more obnoxious than the people who are just cool. You cannot break love with hate. Keep loving. Love harder. The more people hate, the more you got to love. Is It Lucky says, have you ever had to leave behind toxic family members or friends? What would your advice be to leave them behind but not cause a big scene about it? Yes, I have. Not so much on the family side. You know, my family tends to be pretty cool. But on the friend side, yep, I've had to cut people off. It's different in different situations, right? In most of my cases, I just kind of let the relationships drift apart. Like, it's cool. I don't really need this cat. I don't need to, you know, even to the point of like not returning phone calls at some point. But you don't need to make a scene. And really what you can do is just be too busy. That's one real, like if you need to do it like in a passive way because you're not like me. Like I'm comfortable being a jerk if it's for the right reasons. If you need to be a little bit more diplomatic about it, you know, just be less available. Like, yeah, I can't make it to the club this week, man. I got to work on my business. I'm working with this dude, Bryant Chambers movement, trying to reach 1 billion people and change the world. So I got to do this. I got to do my own thing. And then over time, they'll either get the hint or they'll yell at you. And then you just tell them, look, man, this is why I can't hang out with you no more. All right? If it's family, it gets a little bit harder. If it's family, just see them on Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know, to the degree that you can help it. Or bite the bullet and have an honest conversation. Doesn't have to be hateful or make a scene or anything. Just like, look, you do a lot of stuff that I feel is toxic and it ain't helping me. And I don't, when you're that, I don't want to be around you. Doesn't mean I love you any less. Doesn't mean I wouldn't be there for you. But for real, I can't hang out when you're like this. Those are kind of the 3 ways I'd look at it. Cool. So remember, I'm getting ready to get up out of here, friends, because I got to go pick up my wife. Last chance to get on the Zoom call and ask me a question in person. All right? And so when I start doing live streams again more regularly, I don't know when the next one will be. It may not be till 2019. I'll probably, at the very least, do one somewhere near Thanksgiving and probably one near Christmas. But other than that, I don't know how much regularity we'll have. But be prepared to jump on the Zoom calls. So have your microphones and your phones or whatever ready, so that we can actually talk to one another. That's one of the things I want to provide to you guys. And ladies. Yes. It's my pleasure, man. Always good to hear from you. Thank you for calling in. All right, looks like Heidi jumped on the call too. What do you have for us, Heidi? Uh-huh. So I guess the question I'd ask you is, why was the recommendation given? Sure. So there can potentially be a good number of benefits, but what you really have to weigh is, are the benefits that you're going to encounter going to be greater than some of the challenges you're going to face, right? So like if you went into the reserves, depending on what you do in terms of the work that you're doing, and you have 3 kids, you may have work that keeps you away from your kids when you have to do drill, when you have to do training and things of that nature, which not altogether bad, especially if your parents are helping you out. But as far as having something you can be proud of, I think a lot of us can have a lot to be proud of. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to be in the military. And I totally get where your dad's coming from, because I'm very proud to have served with the men and women that I served with, to have been a part of a team where people literally were willing to put their life on the line for me. And that gives me a lot of pride. That gives me a lot of camaraderie. Like right now, tonight, I am missing a reunion with my unit. And it is ripping my heart out that I can't be with those men. So yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in what your dad is saying, but you have to evaluate it in the context of where you are in life. Listen, if you're a mom of 3, that alone is something to me to be very proud of. I think, there's a cliche that being a mom's the hardest job on earth. Like, I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I know it is tough, and I know it's tough in a way that it goes beyond any type of job, because it's a job that you can't quit, you can't walk away from, and it's 24 hours a day, and it's the most thankless people on the planet that you give your heart and soul to every day. So I think if you looked around your life, you'd find things to be proud of that you're already doing or have done, and I would definitely find solace and some comfort in that. Yeah, and I think you'll probably have to do some soul searching. Um, I'm usually inclined to have like a pros and cons checklist, and to see which one outweighs the other. It certainly, in and of itself, probably won't hurt. I think it'll give you some disciplines. I think your dad's probably keying in on that. It may even help you with finding the direction you want to go in more clearly, and you may even be able to find a military career in the field you want to go into, that you're studying psychology for. So I think one of the things that would probably benefit you the most is just sit down with your dad, and I imagine you're doing it already, and just talk it out. Like, Dad, beyond me being proud of something, what else? Like, what other benefits, what other things might I get out of this situation that you see that maybe I don't have a perspective of? And then just have an open mind to what he says. And then ultimately, you'll come to a decision, and one way or the other, hopefully get to whatever your desired end goal is. Cool. Thank you for your question. Absolutely. All right. So last question, and then I got to get up out of here, friends. I don't want my wife to shoot me in the face. Tabitha says it might also be a good idea to tell whoever cut. Oh, okay. So she's helping. She's helping the question about cutting off friends and family. So that's cool. Ursula says almost home. So thank you for sharing. Have a great date, B. Good night, y'all. Good night, Ursula, and good night. Thank you, everybody that came on the live call. I'm going to go ahead and shut that down now. But thank all of you for being a part of it. I know I mentioned at the beginning of the video that we do have our private one-on-one small group coaching program, many of which a lot of the people here on this call are members of that. If that's something that you're interested in, shoot me an email or hit me up on Facebook, and we can talk more about it. I take people through an interview process to make sure that not only is the program a good fit for you, but you are a good fit for the program, because it is a group, and we need to make sure that the people we're bringing in are also going to add value to what we're doing. So if you like more tailored one-on-one, but in a group setting type coaching, that's something that we can talk about offline. So Facebook and email are the best places to get me. Other than that, everybody have a great rest of your weekend. I'm going to hug my wife. I love you all. Remember that we are stronger than I, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.